Yeah, we're just trying to see if I could get this to actually stream, which this would be the first setup, to be honest, on the OBS system, and hopefully it works. But let's move on from here and really get through what we are going to get through today. So I am going to do a little workout just because I want to, especially within the new space. So the space is actually intended to be a continuing education location, mostly for manual therapy. What I mean by manual therapy, I'm talking about like stretching, massage, ISM tools, and then eventually it's going to be full of more biohacky equipment just for demo purposes. Um, Again, it's just working with specific people on that because that's going to be the intent. I'm going to have some demo units of different types of products, and I am going to study the effects between all that and their claims. But the biggest part of it all is that I'm going to have the opportunity to allow health professionals to come and use the products however they see fit, and really get to know like what is the ins and outs of these things. So like VO2 is a big one now, but a lot of times professionals like myself don't know what machines to get. We just don't. So then we end up either spending too little or too much on a unit, and we really don't quite get the ROI behind it. So that's when I come in. I'm going to have all the unit types available and essentially show them which one's the best fit for them. It's like I said, a working progress. But right now, the space is actually perfect for my certification that I'm being providing now in the weekends, which is going to be your optimal recovery specialist. There's enough for a bunch of tables. We're working on getting those tables too. Um, I'm just excited, all in. This weekend, I'm going to have some students already for the class. Um, Going over the recovery modalities. So, some of the recovery stuff that we see out there, there's so many. Um, Something you need to realize is that what could be recovery for you might not work for me. You know, like I'll give you an example: vibration therapy right now. So, vibration therapy, you could use it for a couple ways, but the three main ways would be to relax the tissue, to create PNF in that vibration into a flexibility. So, essentially, allowing your stretching to be more effective. The other one will be activation of the tissue. So, you're activating your improving sensory input within the tissue. People use it for the lymphatic stuff, meaning like they stand on the plate and they say, hey, you're mobilizing your lymphatics, you're working on your bones, you're contracting muscles. It is true to some extent, but in the end of the day, I prefer you moving and walking. That's why I hate to point it out, but I call the vibrating plate the lazy person's exercise. Meaning, if you're immobile or you just have a very low tolerance of activity and motion, that's your solution right there, or at least something that you can use to facilitate other things later on down the road. Um, it's the truth. Like that's the thing I don't like about plates, like these power plates. People rely way too much on these power plates, and they lose the ability to be functional, right? And what I mean by functional, I mean like just thinking of forcing yourself to walk in some scenarios. My background has always been to specialize with chronic diseases. So, stroke, cardiac, pulmonary, lymphatic, all those are my specialties. And I enjoy working with them because they have a lot of limitations. So, guess what? I need to challenge myself to make sure that I can do something for that person. So, someone with lymphedema might not be the best person to put on that plate if they're not cleared, right? Meaning that they don't have anything to be concerned about that could um, potentially harm them later on. That's one thing. A lot of these diseases come with secondary problems. So we need to think about the secondary issues. Just can't be thinking about um, one or two things. But bone density is a good example. If this person can't really walk or lift weights or anything resistant wise, well, maybe we could put them on the plate and vibrate them in an isometric movement. So I'm up here. There you go. AI is interesting. But thinking about it like that is where all these tools come in play and using the concepts behind them. Um, Being able to facilitate limitations is the goal. Another example would be someone I had people that couldn't walk. Um, Not because they were paralyzed or paraplegic or triplegic or quadriplegic, but more of they were so weak and frail, they needed something, right? So, one way to stimulate things would be apply to the area heat, let their body recognize that there is an area that needs to be worked on, and then vibrate the tissue. Vibrate the area, vibrate the sensory bit with it, and then try and get them to do the bare minimum of what they're capable of doing. So, meaning if this person can lift their leg when they're seated, well, let me stimulate it and lift the leg. Let's focus on that. Let's make that harder. If they're able to separate ankle flexion from knee extension, well, let's work on ankle flexion and then work on knee extension. Things like that. Or do an assistant movement where we can bring the limb or the extremity or whatever into a position and then have them eccentrically deload the pace down. It's one way of developing neural recoupment. So there's a lot of different ways to spin things, but you got to be able to modify them, which comes like a whole different topic too, on this whole like science-based community thing. With these kids now online, they're just like spewing science-based stuff. I get it. It's nice. It's popular. It's the hot trend right now. But a lot of them are focusing on the hypertrophy aspect of things. Those things in general don't really make too much sense because you're limiting factors that you could just do it on your own and make it easier for yourself. I'll give you an example. Which one's that new one? That Calvin, Kevin, Flap, whatever, right? That they take a cable machine, they bring it all the way up here, and they go into adduction, right? Just to get their lats. Bro, just do it with your hand. Just do it with your hand. One, it's easier for me just to set up, get the cable, do it with my hand, go even higher on that to about here if I need to. I'm still getting efficiency in that lat. The moment you get close and you now have to do this, it makes it harder. And well, to me, it feels harder on the shoulder. You're limiting the leverage. So you are making it easier, so you go bigger weight. But again, you have to set up the whole thing now. You're taking time just setting it up. Just grab the damn thing, come down. I could even do extensions from this point. So I could superset into extension, get different portions of the lat. Involve other things like your serratus anterior and all this other stuff. Whatever. But see, that would be a maneuver I would use for someone that can't really grip, right? Instead of me wrapping their hands into the cable and then have them try and adduct, I could potentially just put the harness in and use that for someone that can't grab things. That would be an option. So there's a lot of different things to think about, but they don't really see the fine point because it's not new. None of that shit is new. So those are things to think about. Okay, I'm just tired. been at this since the morning, so now I'm just like pretty much trying to wind down a little bit, do some administrative stuff, you know, be on here live for a bit. But yeah, it's just interesting topics. And then what's the other one today? I had someone hit me up about hip pain, right? But they don't want to do an evaluation, an assessment. They don't want to see a professional. Makes it hard. So asking me for advice in what's going on with their hip. It's hard to do it through text message, I tell you that. But a couple things is, hey, let's look at all the motion of the hip, see what's going on, understand the history of this person, the pathology of this person, and see where it becomes more painful, less painful, morning, night, all those different things, right? Any prior histories, injuries, lifestyle, all that takes into account. So today, obviously, I give them ideas to look at and what to do, and if it's really severe, then we would just send them to a professional, to a to another professional to get diagnosed right there and then. It's not that severe if they're not running, right? So they send me a text message with a picture of this woman doing a weird ass exercise with one foot on top of the box and the other one kind of doing a crossfire Romanian deadlift. Mind you, we don't know if she's got scoliosis or anything. But here's the thing: when you elevate the hip, one side over the other, then you lean forward. You're rotating the pelvis and the lumbopelvic higher on one side versus the other. And then you're going into an RDL cross. You might be stretching your QL, this lower back muscle right here, a little bit. And you might be getting the opposing glutes. But if you have a problem with lumbopelvic rotation and you don't know it, meaning like there's a difference in how your hip rests either forward one side versus the other side when seated, you can make it worse. Yeah, you can make it much worse. So, or you might just facilitate that motion and then create problems for the other side. So when you were looking at all this stuff, it's really like, hey, before you do anything that's weird, let's just take a look at the rest. And then we'll imply that. Because that is something that you would do in people that have that type of rotational problem, right? You need lateral rotation. Like I don't know what to tell you. Like people see things online and they want to just like do it for fun. It's weird. Yeah, it is weird. Obviously, I would work out harder, but I'm talking to you guys. It's kind of good because I already did my workout this morning, and I just pretty much eating shit with the weights. Especially back. I hate back day. It's just boring because it's not too much that I could do. I already worked on the posterior stuff yesterday. So deadlifts, RDLs, squats, all that shit. So today is more like upper body pulls. And I'm just not as strong as all these guys that are online and they do all that crazy shit. I wish I can be that strong. It's taken me a long time. But yeah, it's a lot, chat. But yeah, I'm excited. This week I got the first class in the studio. I have all the massage tables put away, so don't even worry about that. But I'm so excited because, again, we're going to go over the main syllabus, which is the physiology and the pathology of what is considered recovery now. What is the personal perspective of recovery. So, meaning what works for you might work for me, or no, what works for me won't work for you. That's one. So, we'll look at the physiology of the skin and fascia, the epidermis. We'll look at the physiology of breath and relax and recovery. We'll look at the relationship between stress and fight or flight through the ocular kinetics. We'll look at sensory input when it comes to recovery. We'll look at stability versus mobility when it comes to biomechanical assessments. We'll look at fascial lines movements. We'll look at vibrational therapy and what it does to all the nerve sensories. We'll look at the relationship between making something hypertonic versus hypotonic. Using other tools, we'll look into assistant soft tissue manipulation tools. We'll look at that. We'll look at cupping, taping, how to use that for that type of scenario. We'll look at heavily on stretching, a lot of stretching. They'll learn a few manual stuff like skin glides, but not, there is no pain associated in any of this, and there is no diagnostic reading in anything. We'll look at after the hands-on stuff, the assessment, the awareness and all that. We'll talk about the basics of what other recovery tools are out there as an introduction and not a full-blown class, because there's so many things that's considered recovery now. I'll give you an example. Hyperbaric chambers, that's considered recovery. You have PMFs, you have AMFs, you have cold therapies, hot therapies, you've got contrast, you've got shockwave, you've got frequency, you've got a bunch of different scenarios in what someone considers recovery. And we're going to touch on all those at the very end, just to get a basic understanding of all the stuff that's out there, and essentially start stacking things together, right? Yeah. Guys, I'm gonna head out because I'm too sleepy. I'm gonna try and do this again another day, but man, I am sleepy, guys.